Hey, Shalom. I like to give all honor, praises, and glory unto Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Wakaha Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well, taught me this truth. Peace and salutations to the Akim preaching this word with truth and sincerity around the four corners. Peace and salutations to the Israelite foreigners. And peace and salutations to the Akim and the Aqua, the true believers of the hopeful elect. It's coming back in the spirit and theme of prophecy. Just got finished watching the elder bro Amuan Gabar. He did he did a response to the flavor of the week. Some guy named Chief Ephraim. And he had $1 million question, talking about how is the MOTV, how is the RFID micro C hip, the MOTV, the mark of the beast. So, the elder bro said, if you claim to be a prophet, to do a land back. So that's what I'm here doing a quick land back on it. I'm not going to spend too much time on it because brothers have already done epistles on it. The apostles and the elders have done epistles on it. So, but this is me adding my spiritual 2 cents. Matter of fact, I got a video queued up from the elder bro Hawad in North Carolina. I watched this video earlier just to show you what this guy was saying. So I'm going to play the video, a couple seconds of it. And get a couple of scriptures, and Lord's willing, this will be edifying.
Shalom. Hey, I got the $1 million question, right? For those that claim the mark of the beast is a microchip, right? With everything going on in the earth, who's going to implement the mark of the beast? What nation is going to implement the mark of the beast? Because if you say it's all white people, you got to be specific, because obviously Russia is not doing what America is doing. China is not doing what America is doing. Iran is definitely not doing what America is doing. What nations or what white nation is going to implement the mark of the beast? Because if you say it's America, then obviously it ain't going to be the whole world. So this is where the doctrine kind of falls very short. It takes a deep dive very short. If the mark of the beast is going to be a worldwide thing and you can't eat, right, and drink and buy and sell, right, all of this stuff with a physical chip, the $1 million question is, who's going to implement it? And I'm going to leave y'all with that.
Yeah, you see? He said $1 million question. I agree with Amuan Gabar, the elder bro. He said that it's a $2 question. Because obviously this guy, he's a false prophet. Because if he's been measuring the time diligently, he would see that, the other nations, it doesn't matter how they look right now. The other nations have CBDCs, central bank digital currencies. I went to Google real quick and I typed in how many countries use CBDCs, and it said, this is the AI overview. It said, while it's difficult to pinpoint an exact real-time number, over 100 countries are currently exploring or actively developing central bank digital currencies. Currently, a smaller number of countries have actually launched CBDCs, with others in pilot programs or in advanced stages of development. You see, so that kills his $1 million question. But matter of fact, let me look up. It says China using digital currency. Look at this. He said China is not on the same page. And this is what Google said. Everything, his $1 million question, he could have answered it in a couple seconds just using Google. You see, I typed in, is China using digital currency? It says the digital yuan issued by the People's Bank of China is a digitized version of the renminbi with the same exchange rate as physical currency. Now all you got to do, he said, is Russia. Type in Russia. Switch Russia for China. And I typed in, is Russia using digital currency? It says the digital ruble is a central bank digital currency developed by the Bank of Russia, the third form of Russian national currency in addition to the already existing cash and non-cash forms of money of the Russian ruble. So right now, he's 0 for 2. He said China, he said Russia, he said Iran definitely is not on the same page. Let's look up Iran. Is Iran using digital currency? Is the AI overview. Yes, Iran is actively developing and experimenting with digital currency. While not widely adopted yet, the Central Bank of Iran is developing a digital version of the rial, known as the digital rial, for retail purposes and to potentially circumvent international sanctions. You see? So, this guy is 0 for 3. You know? Let me type this in. What countries have digital currency? This is the AI overview. It says several countries have launched or are actively developing central bank digital currencies. So several countries have launched or are actively developing CBDCs. So they're in the process of doing this now as I speak. Digital versions of their national currencies. Some notable examples include the Bahamas with the sand dollar, Jamaica with the Jamdex, and Nigeria with the Naira, and China with the digital renminbi. You know, I just read about that, and we just looked up Google, and I just looked up Google, and just asked if China is using a digital currency. Additionally, the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank has launched Dcash. Many other countries are exploring or piloting CBDCs. You see? It says examples of countries with CBDCs: the Bahamas, Jamaica, Nigeria, China, Eastern Caribbean, India, Russia, Brazil. And you know, Brazil, India, and Russia are part of the BRICS, you know, with many more countries that joined up with them. You know, the first 5 founding countries were Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. And I believe I can't even put a number on how many countries joined with them, but they have to be in the tens to almost 100. They've gotten a lot stronger than when they first formed. You know. Then it says other countries exploring or developing CBDCs. United States. The Federal Reserve Board is exploring the potential benefits and risks of CBDCs. European countries, many are testing wholesale CBDCs. So whatever that guy Chief Ephraim was talking about, he's clearly not doing his research. All the whole world is basically trying to go digital. You know, Canada, Australia, Singapore, Japan, United Kingdom, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, UAE, also involved in the M-Bridge project. So this guy, he doesn't know what the hell he's talking about, you know. Let me get a quick precept. Get a couple of precepts. Like I said, I wasn't going to make this long. It doesn't need to be long. It's straight and to the point. You know, starting with the apostles and elders of Great Millstone down to the elder bros like Amon Gabar, you know, brother Yaiquab, you know, Bishop Karab, Rapah Amath, Shamar Amath, just to name a few, down to the young brothers like Kadar Shapat and brother Yawanathan, brother Kanat, brother Yashar Kazak, you know, down to the young brothers like that. You know, they've made videos, made many epistles on the MOTB, the CBDC, and and how the whole world is just starting to transition into digital currency. So let me just get a couple of precepts. This is the book of 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 3, and it reads, "But if our gospel be hid, it is hid to them that are lost." And it's clear that Chief Ephraim is lost, you know? Coming up with $1 million question. That question isn't even worth $2. That question is 10 cents. Not even 10 cents. It's a stupid question. Talking about so who's going to implement the who's going to implement the mark of the beast if all these countries aren't on the same page. But little does he know, they are on the same page. That's why they're all exploring and implementing and experimenting with the CBDC, because that's the next stage, you know? Matter of fact, this is the book of Job, chapter 9, verse 24, and it reads, "The earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covereth the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he?" And that's, you see, that should explain your $1 million question. Like, who's going to implement the mark of the beast? It said that the earth was given into the hand of the wicked. Like, what Bible is this guy reading, you know? It clearly tells you that the earth is that there's going to come a point in time. It tells you in the book of Revelation, the 13th chapter, that he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a charagma in their hand or in their forehead, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the charagma. You know, it clearly says that. When you look up, I say the word charagma because that's the word that comes up when you look up the word mark in Revelation, the 13th chapter. Not to be confused with the word mark in Ezekiel 9 and 4. That's a different word. That's why the apostles and elders, you know, they stress that you look up words. That way you don't come off sounding crazy and uninformed like IUIC. You know, they feel that English is just good enough for them. You gotta look up the words in the Hebrew and the Greek, and sometimes even the Latin. You know, like 2 Timothy, I believe the 2nd chapter says, "Study to show thyself approved." You know. But this guy, he clearly wasn't. He's clearly not rooted and grounded in the words of Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai, because that's why he's asking this dumbass question. You know? It's like he doesn't believe what the Lord has put out for him. This is the book of Romans chapter 3, verse 3, and it reads, "For what if some did not believe? Shall their unbelief make the faith of the Most High without effect? Power forbid. Yea, let the Most High be true, but every man a liar, as it is written, that thou mightest be justified in thy sayings, and mightest overcome when thou art judged." Yeah. So, regardless of what your belief system is, what's already been written to come to pass is going to come to pass, and there's nothing you could do about it. If you don't believe, then the Most High has blinded you to not to believe. Matter of fact, staying in Romans, go to 11th chapter, 7th verse. "What then? Israel hath not obtained that which he seeketh for, but the election hath obtained it, and the rest were blinded." Yeah, and it looks like Chief Ephraim was part of that rest that were blinded, you know? And from what I understand, he's a so-called leader in Israel. So, asking questions like that, you're leading the flock astray. There's the book of Jeremiah, chapter 23, verse 1 and 2. It says, "Woe be unto the pastors that destroy and scatter the sheep of my pasture, saith the Lord. Therefore, thus saith the Lord, power of Israel, against the pastors that feed my people. Ye have scattered my flock and driven them away, and have not visited them. Behold, I will visit upon you the evil of your doing, saith the Lord." You see? And that's exactly what's going to happen to false prophets like Chief Ephraim. Just to name a few. Like him, Bishop Nate of IUIC, ISUPK, GOCC, the group formerly known as Sakari, Genesis, all of these false prophets. They have some truth, but they don't have 100% truth, and they're not telling you about the market, the MOTB. They're not telling you about the micro C hit. That's a major end time prophecy, and you are advised not to take it, because once you take it, the Lord gonna kill you. Tells you that in Revelation the 14th chapter. But to be honest, majority of these people are like Chief Ephraim. They're just blind. Yeah, that's just to be perfectly honest, they're just blind. The book of Matthew, chapter 15, start at verse 13. It says, "But he answered and said, Every plant which my heavenly Father hath not planted shall be rooted up. Let them alone. They be blind, leaders of the blind, and if the blind lead the blind, both shall fall into the ditch." Yeah, so whoever's following Chief Ephraim, he's about to lead them down a path of destruction, because he doesn't have all of the answers himself. Because he didn't, if you listen to the whole video, he said that's why him and other servants don't subscribe to the mark of the beast being the microchip. But that's going to be to your destruction, because that's the only thing it could be. You see? The elites the top banking families have been working on this for decades, if not centuries. To come to this standpoint of total domination, and the stage is basically set. We're just waiting on a Black Swan event to take place to do away with the dollar as it is, and so they can usher in their order ab chaos. The problem, reaction, solution, the Hegelian dialect. It's the book of Luke, chapter 6, verse 39, and it reads, "And he spake a parable unto them. Can the blind lead the blind? Shall they not both fall into the ditch?" You see? So that's who Chief Ephraim is. He's blind. You know? The blind leading the blind. And they're both going to fall into the ditch. Salakia. Bear with me. This is the book of Isaiah chapter 56 verse 10. And it reads, "His watchmen are blind. They are all ignorant. They are all dumb dogs. They cannot bark, sleeping, lying down, loving to slumber. Yeah, they are greedy dogs which can never have enough, and they are shepherds that cannot understand. They all look to their own way, every one for his gain from his quarter." You see? And that's who Chief Ephraim is. He's a greedy dog. He's a blind watchman. Because for you to make a statement like that and all you had to do was Google, like how I did, man, and he's supposed to be a so-called leader in Israel, man. I'm just glad I don't follow him. I'm glad I follow the apostles and elders and the elder bros of Great Millstone, GMS. That's the only people you need to be listening to when it comes to prophecy. Because when it comes to prophecy and breaking down the scriptures the right way, they got the oil, bar none. You know, that's another scripture I could get. Talking about the parable of the 10 virgins. Let's start at the top. This is Yahushua speaking. It says, "Then shall the kingdom of heaven be likened unto 10 virgins, which took their lamps and went forth to meet the bridegroom." And you know the bridegroom is Yahushua. It says, "And 5 of them were wise, and 5 were foolish. They that were foolish took their lamps and took no oil with them." And that's exactly who Chief Ephraim is. He's a foolish virgin. You know? For you not to know what the mark of the beast is in this time, this late in the game, you're a foolish virgin. And that's because he doesn't subscribe to the teachings of the apostles and elders. And that's going to be to his downfall, you know? It says, "But the wise took oil in their vessels with their lamps." You see? The wise are going to listen and hearken into the breakdowns and the teachings of the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. You know, to make you wise into salvation. Everything is crystal clear, especially being this late in the game. It's 2025. You know, the apostles and elders of Great Millstone have been on the YouTube for almost 2 decades. You know, if it wasn't for the YouTube era, a lot of people wouldn't have been woke to the truth, and that's the God honest truth. So that's how we know that the internet was created for that specific purpose. You know, you can read about that in Psalms the 19th chapter, the internet scripture. But I can keep going, but I didn't want to make this too long. You know, just giving my 2 cents on it. You know, Lord's will. He was edified. Yeah, Lord's will. He was edified.
And I'm gonna leave y'all with that, right? Because obviously the nations ain't getting along. And whatever NATO's doing, BRICS ain't with it, and whatever BRICS is doing, NATO ain't with it. So who's gonna implement it? This is why I don't subscribe, and neither do the servants subscribe to the mark of the beast being a microchip. Yeah, well, shy.
You see? And that's going to be his downfall. So Lord's will, you was edified. Till next time, I'm going to say shalom to the elect.